On the Unattached program, I am so excited to be here today, whether you're popping in live, whether you're coming in later, whether you're watching the replay. Today is going to be so grounding. Today it's about cutting the cords, it's about talking deeply, it's about writing the permission slip and connecting to our heart and our soul and really removing this anxiety that can come with relationships, that can come from projections of our inner childhood wounds. And so I'm so happy to bring this to you. This is one that I personally struggled with for years and years and years, and I lost myself inside of it for very long, and I'm just really, really excited to bring this to you ladies today. Like I said, as you're popping on, hello Dawn, how are you? And I know some of you, we have spoken on the back end, and you're like, it's like 2 a.m. my time, it's like 5 a.m. my time, and you're watching the replays, and it's wild how we can do this around the globe and the conversations we can have. So like I said last time, as you're coming on, just land here, close down the tabs, be present, receive the message, open your heart, put your feet on the floor, breathe a little deeper. You know, we have a whole bunch of tasks that go on throughout our days, and we run around and we're kind of stuck in this survival mode a lot of the time. And really being aware of our body is a tool I want to really start to implement for us, whether it's in this program, whether it's in our day-to-day, whether it's in our relationships, whether it's when we're dating, whether it's with our kids, whether it's with our parents, really grounding into the moment. And I want to practice in this space. So I know sometimes when I am listening to things, I go on walks and I have it plugged in and I'm just like very tuned in. So I'm not like scrolling on my phone. I'm not distracted by things at work and all these kind of moments. And so if that's a space you can do right now, I invite you to do that, to land here to receive whatever it is that you're meant to receive, and really trusting that whatever's going to land is going to land. Sometimes people, mentor spaces are things come out and it shows us how we don't want to do things, or things will be said and it's things we've heard before and it just lands differently and it activates us and it sparks some type of internal conversation that arises. And let that be open, let that be as it is, and let it wander and learn, and just open the space today. I want to know, how are you feeling? How's your heart? It is a full moon today, and it's an Aquarius full moon. It's all about community and collective, and we're stepping out of Leo season, which is all about the I just went to a full moon circle yesterday, so this is how I know all this. Leo season, which is all I, and then we're in this energy of like collective community. I actually have my Aquarius moon, and so there can be these spaces where like insecurity comes out around community, around a sense of belonging, and so if you're feeling anything like that today, as you're watching this replay or as you're coming in here live, know that I got you. I got your back. This is a space to feel full, to feel like yourself, to have an honest conversation. You have my attention, my full attention for this hour. So if there are questions from last session that you want to break down, please drop them in the chat box and we'll be sure to cover them, because like I said last time, if you have a question, someone else in this community does as well. And especially for those women that can't show up live, y'all can email me, and I know they will also benefit from this conversation between you and I, Dawn. And so today, like I said, we're going to be talking about anxious attachment. We're going to be talking about taking back your personal power. We're going to be talking about really deepening the conversation that we had last time and softening it, leaning into the tenderness, leaning into the trust, leaning into the spaciousness of this sacred pause. I'm so happy because I know some of you did jump into the mystery offer, and I'm not even going to say it here because I still want to keep it a mystery until I announce it to the public. Like in a week from now, you guys got a banging ass deal, and I'm so excited. And if you do want to upgrade, we do have the dating micromind. I'll be talking about that at the end, and that's where we can do more personalized approach to this, and where we're going to be collapsing time and quantum healing within our heart space. And that's all through this app called Voxer, which is an audio app. I'll talk about it at the end, because oh my God, Dawn, I am literally like so it's that program that you just like, I could cry. I ran it the first time when my breakup happened, and it has changed my life. Like, I am so excited for you just because I know you. We've had conversations in the back end, and like what's to come from this program and from that one, like I could tear up. I am so excited. Like, my dear. So we have that, and then you can upgrade to the Voxer Mastermind as well, if that's something that you want to upgrade to. Like I said, always lead yourself to a conversation around payment plans or whatever, but we do have people filling that in the back end, and that is going to be an intimate space. I'm going to keep it small so that everyone does get their questions answered. I'm playing with the number 6, so maybe 6 people, so we only have a few more spaces available in that. But again, I don't want to take up that much space here. So, and then I haven't even announced it yet, but I'm going to be launching after this. Like, this was the pre-party yesterday, but after this, it's the free masterclass. I haven't done a free masterclass in a while. So it's called Breaking Through Your Breakup. I'm so excited about it. It's going to be happening next Friday. So come hang out there, invite your friends, invite anyone that you feel like could benefit from hearing this work. I'm going to be talking about really overcoming breakups and how I've done it in such a quick 3 months, and the truths behind it, the reality, and, you know, kind of like what my post was, where it's like, there's no 5-step formula, but there is this permission slip and this invitation back to yourself. And I want to walk you through the tools that I've used in a trauma-informed way. So I haven't even announced that yet, but I will be announcing that later today. So if you want to sign up, you guys can see it there. Anyways, so let's land here for a second after I get all those jittery bits of excitement of what's coming out of me. Okay. So, like I said, today we're going to be talking about anxious attachment. We're going to be talking about personal power and really reclaiming our energy. And this goes back to, and I want to rehash something we talked about last time around the whole cheating aspect. And what I meant by that, what it really truly means is we're not writing permission slips for people to cheat, right? For me, like I said, that wasn't a boundary break for me unless it's emotional. Then that's a boundary break for me. Or if it's like a long stream of things, but if it's a one-time slip up thing, like that's what I meant by my personal story, because of the context of the relationship I had with my partner, which was deep and intimate. And there's always so much more to a backstory than what is transmuted in this space. And my apologies for not articulating that, but absolutely the fuck not. Like, what we want is a love story for the ages. What we want is trust. What we want is being such a walking magnetism filled with respect and love and honor and trust and femininity that it's a match for an available human being, whether man, woman, person. It's a match. And when our nervous systems, when we do the healing, when we end up in these spaces like this, that's how we start to reprogram our nervous system. That's how, like, I am so proud of you for ending up here, because you're breaking the cycle, right? Like, I've spoken to each and every one of you on the back end of this, and the cycles that I've been repeating, and like the heartache that comes and the stress that it involves in your headspace, and how much time it's taking up in your day. And you just want to feel free in your mind, body, soul again, and feel like yourself and feel empowered. And, you know, as we've been in relationships for so long, that kind of can start to strip away that hope, that belief that we were born worthy and nothing has changed can start to shift away. And so and that's why we'll then not listen to red flags. That's why we'll start getting hung up on timelines and being like, well, this is what I want. I did this with my partner, where it's like, if I look back in hindsight, even though I love that man, I still do, right? I honor him. I respect his journey. I choose not to walk that path in that journey anymore, and to release it from my nervous system. And that's what I'm going to be talking about more inside of today and inside of the Breaking Through Your Breakup. But what the journey has to do and where it's going is reflecting back on it and being like, where did I not trust myself? Where did I not respect my boundaries? Because I wanted to be chosen, because I wanted to be, because my time horizon, right? For me, I moved back to the States because I wanted to be married. I have success. And the one thing I did not have was a mate to match that with. And I mean, I was 26 hours away from my family, so I wanted to move closer. But the big thing was, like, even so, my friends threw me like a surprise bachelorette party before I even left Thailand, because it was like, that was the mission, right? And because that was my mission, I wasn't fucking listening to the red flags. I wasn't listening to my nervous system. I wasn't seeing things. I wasn't hearing him for where he was at. I kept trying to be like, yeah, but we can work through that. Yeah, but this is what we can do. And, you know, trying to quote unquote fix a container that was never meant for me, beyond the capacity of where it was. It did show me so many things. It regulated me. It showed me what love is. It showed me what faith is. It showed me what a healthy relationship up until that moment is. Like, there was a context of that, but by no means is it, I'm going into a relationship, so therefore I can be okay if that happens again. Right? Where were you in your 20s? I was in Asia. So I lived in Asia for 6 years. And so I came back with that intention, right? And so I was bypassing all of these kind of things going on. And tell me if you can relate to this, where it's like, after a breakup happens and after something happens, it could be so earth-shattering. You're like, I didn't fucking see this happening. I couldn't see this coming. And then you look back and you're like, actually, my rose-colored glasses didn't see this coming. But now in hindsight, yeah, my expectation clouded my intuition. My expectation clouded my intuition. And so this comes with giving away our personal power. This comes with anxious attachment. This is what anxious attachment is. There is activating strategies, and then there's protesting strategies. And we're going to talk about that today. And what I was doing in that moment was activating strategies. He'll come around. If I can just be kind, he will learn this. It's these kind of strategies. And even though I work in this work, it wasn't perfect. And so instead of sitting in this, like, what the fuck, Laura, like, we've gone out of trauma responses, we left domestic violence, we got ourselves off of addictions, we got out of sexual assaults, like, we've stepped into this. And like, instead of being like, what the fuck, why are we still in this? It's like, oh, like, we are on our way up. And there's always more to learn. Like, relationships are the deepest portals of activation. They're so healing, they are so nourishing, they are so expansive. And so instead of sitting in that being like, oh, what the fuck is wrong with me, and being in the self-sabotage mode, it's this reframe of like, where is the lesson I haven't learned yet? Right? Because like I said, not every time someone cheats, it means they're a bad person or a narcissist. That's what I was trying to say by that. And again, every context is different. Every relationship is different. Every person is different. Every standard is different. And we're going to talk about personal standards today, and communication. We're going to talk about, that's the biggest one in this conversation, right? And around attachment styles and our expectations and our reality of things, because sometimes we have these internal conversations and we don't let the other person know that this is what I expect and this is my standard and this is how I need to be taken care of. And then sometimes having a conversation with us and being like, you know, I saw this in a meme the other day and I was like, this is spot on, where it's like, we live in a world where it's like, let me tell you everything. Like, I should be able to tell my partner everything. I should be 100% myself. I should be doing these kind of things. And sometimes being 100% yourself is actually that traumatized 7-year-old coming out and projecting these old belief patterns. And really, it's like this not self-fulfilling prophecy, but it's like we have to check ourselves. Am I speaking from my power? Am I setting my boundaries for my power? Am I looking at myself and this relationship in my power? Or is it coming from that traumatized 7-year-old, right? So our attachment styles are all survival mechanisms, whether it's avoidant, disorganized, avoidant attachment. I said avoidant twice, right? Anxious, avoidant, disorganized. Any of those, they're all part of our survival mechanisms, right? So I come from a family of, my mom became an addict when I was 16, but she was really a dry alcoholic the whole time. A lot of processing there. She ended up passing when I was 22. So it's a lot of processing through the container of my dad, which they don't really know. But I had a lot of rules put on me. I had a lot of inconsistency put on me. Because it was like, I trust you and I don't. We're going to put a tracking device on your phone and then I don't. We're going to lock you in your room and then you can do whatever. Like, don't have sex with friends. We're going to ground you for 2 months because you had sex. Like, it was very, I don't actually fucking know what's going on here, right? Like, what rule am I following? And so then for me, looking back at my relationships and my patterns and things like that, I can see that in my relationships where that was kind of the hot, cold, unavailable men that I was attracting into my life, and the confusion that would happen in my nervous system, and, you know, the chaos that I would go, and the fights that would ensue. And, you know, I would then detach from my body and I'd get into these people pleasing tendencies, because if I'm nice enough, if I become the good girl, will you love me? Will this make sense? Will you choose me if I'm good enough? If I'm quiet enough, sexualized enough, look a certain way, act a certain way, speak a certain way, eat a certain way. Like, there were so many different parts that kept clipping away from myself so that I could therefore be chosen. Can you relate to any of that? Because if I look back at my origin story, that's how it was with my mom. Right. And then I had the same inconsistency with my father, which was he traveled for work. And from a kid, that doesn't make sense. Like, I was always fighting for my dad's love. Right. And so he'd be there. And then in my child self, like, he's gone. I don't get it. He was maybe home like a week in total out of the entire months when I was growing up. And now, of course, we've had conversations around that. We've been working on healing it. But it's like looking at what is your narrative around safety and security. And I had you guys for your homework, and I'm curious to know how this went. I had you guys write a forgiveness letter, right? And then I had you take a test, which was to figure out what your attachment style was. And I'm curious to know what came up for you. How are we feeling around it? If you didn't take the test, what would you guess yours is? And I'm going to go through different things for anxious attachment today, so I can walk through that a little bit. But like I said, for me, I know mine was anxious. And then as I got older and got into my defense mechanisms, I got into avoid it. Because when someone was a little too much lovey-dovey for me and cases would happen and I didn't feel my nervous system and someone would be like, I love you, I'd be like, why did you do that? And I'd like run away because I didn't believe I was lovable, and that's a match, right? And so the first part of working through anxious attachment is understanding first our origin. Where did it come from? Without shame, without anything, right? Like, it's the 3 A's. We have to be aware of what is going on, how it's showing up for us, what's happening, how often does this occur? Can I take responsibility for my end of the street? This is a big part when I was going through Al-Anon, right? Like, which is a support group for children's and partners of alcoholics and addicts. And CODA, I did both. There were 2 aspects of this. One was the awareness, then the acceptance, right? Like, give yourself the compassion that you pray for. You don't know better. So when, you know, if I look back at my relationship patterns and I look at how clingy I was and how needy I was and how self-abandoning I was and all these kind of things, which I walk you through inside of Sacred Singlehood, like healing those modalities from a somatic standpoint, accepting that, like, it was just out of self-protection, right? Like, these attachment styles were just survival mechanisms that I knew from the past. So it's just like accepting it without shame, without judgment, without anything. It's accepting it. And then we start to take action, which is why you're here, right? This is why we enroll in things like this. This is why we start to do things, and beyond just learning conceptually, right? Like, we have to go apply them. That's what the journaling articles are for. That's what the homework is for. That's why telling you to go out and do things like this is expanding our nervous system so that we aren't stressing our nervous system. We stretch it. right? Like if you start to feel anxiety about some of the homework practices that I'm going to have you walk through, that's a good thing. That is a really good thing, because that means we're expanding our edges. And that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It doesn't mean like anxiety, oh my God, it's bad, and this like negative thing that we have when it's in this way. Like there's two different ways of anxiety. When it's for a positive thing, and our nervous system is going to be like, wait, that's like not my coping mechanism. That's not, maybe you've experienced this in some ways where it's like your old coping mechanism when you're trying not to do it, right? Like for me, that was like when I was trying to get off drugs and I was trying not to drink as much. It was like laying in bed and I'm like, how does someone sleep at night if you're not smoking weed or you're not having a glass of wine? Like how do people sleep? I don't know. And like that anxiety would come, but in a way that was good, right? Like that's a good anxiety because I'm stretching my nervous system to get comfortable with self again and walking through that. Whereas like anxiety from attached anxiety is like, come hither. If he picks up his phone and he looks at his phone or he does something, it's like, what's he doing over there? How's it? And like, if he's not present, what's he doing? Is he with her? What if he's looking at someone at a coffee shop? What if he's out at a bar? He's on a travel trip. Oh my God. What if he's at the bar with a girl? Like, that's not a good anxiety. They're different, right? Like they're different forms. And so we're playing with that in our nervous system. And so we can see that inside of some of the homework that we're going to be talking about. So that's one of them: awareness, acceptance, action. The other one that I talk about is halt. I don't know if you guys have ever heard this, but it started in AA. And when I heard this, when I went to some of the AA meetings or NA meetings, halt is don't do anything if you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Halt your ass. If you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, don't make any decisions. Do not respond. Don't do, because we don't ever make rational decisions when we don't have the basics down, right? Like this is why before I even want to enter the conversations of strategies and what have you, when we're healing specifically from a heartbreak, specifically from trauma, specifically from up-leveling our life and shifting our life, like human needs, the basic human needs, the halt. Are you eating well? Can your body handle what's happening? And this is the thing about trauma work and therapy and what have you, is like, we can go back to the origin 1,000 times and a half, but if your body isn't actually regulated and feels safe, it can't hold the context of that. It can't hold that container, right? So it's looking at like, am I eating breakfast? Am I balancing my blood sugar levels? Am I getting enough sleep? Do I have a healthy place to put my anger? Am I surrounding myself in environments and community that nourish my soul? Are we looking at these contexts? And again, halt is more of a context of what we do inside of Sacred Singlehood, because there's much more time in that one. That's going to be 4 weeks long, and we're navigating all these things and more of the science behind that. But looking at hungry, don't make any decisions if you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. We need the basics covered. Otherwise, we're going to keep responding because our body is in fight or flight already. Our body, if it's lack of sleep, have you been around someone that hasn't slept? If you're around me and I haven't had my coffee yet, I'm a nightmare. And I would like to be one of those people that woke up all fluffy and all the things, but I choose my vices and I like things, right? Like, but 8 hours of sleep, definitely. Lonely, are you in community? Like, have you surrounded yourself with people? Are you going outside of your boundaries to make sure the people that you're surrounding yourself with are supported for who you want to be? Right? Like one of the best things one of my therapists asked me when I was going through healing my relationship trauma and things like that, she's like, well, what type of relationships are your friends in? And I was like, they're not. Or like, they're not healthy ones that I would want to be in. Like, it's a lot of drama and whatever, and they're out and they're doing and whatever. And just being aware of that, right? Like, who are the people you surround yourself with? Does it feel safe to your nervous system? What are they doing? Like, how do they talk about relationships? How is that? And if you don't find that is literally why the dating micromind is so impactful, because it's like you're surrounded by it. This is why like my mastermind, like I pop in here every single day and I don't even, there's like hundreds of messages that I just like answer to. It's just like I get to tap into a space that gets me. I get to plug in there to regulate myself, even if it's not this in-person thing. Like who are you surrounding yourself with? Angry. If we have repressed anger, which is very common, like in anxious attachment, because instead of matching with love and compassion and grace and understanding, it's met with, I'm in a heightened state of arousal and therefore let me attack. I'm going to go in, fight, flight, freeze, right? I'm going to go into fight, which is a turnoff for anyone. It is a turnoff. When we are angry, this little chicken nugget, all critical thinking goes out the window. When we are activated, when we are triggered, when a partner isn't matching us, when all these kind of things, like our critical thinking, this is why when we go into a conversation and triggers are happening and we don't go through the halt process, we say things we don't mean. And people don't forget those kind of things, unfortunately. And hungry. Your metabolism is the main source. If you guys don't know, my past life is the gut-brain connection, right? Like I am an IBS anxiety specialist as well as a trauma specialist and relationship coach. But this is still a huge part of my practice because we have to understand our body and our hunger cues and things of that nature, because we're going to keep going off the walls if our body doesn't feel safe. And so we can conceptually learn the things that we're going to cover today, but also we need to look at what is our body doing and how do we feel? Is this landing for you? Is this making sense? How do we feel about this process in this journey? Do we feel like we nail this? Is this something we still struggle with? How are we doing? And then I want to jump into struggle with it. Yeah, this is what I see very commonly, honestly. Like when I'm talking about attachment styles, when I talk to women about dating and relationships and things like this, it's often like, let me just talk about my relationship stuff, but your body and your relationship to your body will tell me a lot more as well. It's like a key component to the story. So Dawn, I'm so fucking excited. You're in the mystery offer because you're going to nail it. I'm so excited. Okay, back to the conversation. So when we are activated, right? When we're in relationship with another and we're activated, we often get consumed by thoughts that have a single purpose: establish reconnection and closeness with our partner, right? This is what activating strategies are. So we have these underarching fears of like, maybe he'll eventually change. I did this. I believe in the belief system, or I did believe in the belief system of they have the potential. We fall in love with the potential of someone. And then we act like they're surprised when they don't live up to the potential. We only remember their good qualities, right? Like this is honestly why, if you're going through a breakup, keep a phone present. And like whenever you get caught up in those little narratives that we like to tell ourselves of like, they did this, or maybe it's me, or da 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 da, like write down all the things that they did that made them a shitbag. And whatever, I know I should probably use a better terminology, but whatever. And write down all the things that activated you, where they didn't respect you, where they didn't honor you, all the kind of things. So you can go back and yes, make a list of all the negatives and look at it, because we will put on these rose-colored glasses and be like, it's not that bad. And then we get stuck in these perpetual cycles. And I do this even when I'm dating, right? Like I will come home and it's a good and a bad, a pros and a con, because I'm a double Libra. I love love. I know this about myself, but I'll get caught up in codependency tendencies and bypassing whatever if I don't also look at, is this in alignment to who I want to become in the relationship I want to have? So looking at my stuff, being like pros and cons list, like, yes, he's giving me attention. And yes, this feels so good. And yes, like I'm loaded with fucking hormones right now, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, what comes from love, like in dating and what have you. Like women get so hormonal in this process. This is why men and women date so differently. We're going to be talking more about this when I talk about secure attachment and how to really establish this. But this is one of my tools where it's like hot and cold, good and bad. I don't like good and bad, hot and cold. And then making a list, being like, this is what I like, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. And then like being able to neutralize my body to make a coherent decision of how this is going, other than like, blah, 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 someone chose me, and like all the fears of abandonment and rejection and whatever being bypassed from my childhood because someone quote unquote chose me to go on a date with and gave me a cheeky flirt and made my hormones go through the roof. It's like, let's look at this logically now. And also play in it because it's fun to have a cheeky flirt, but like, let's play in the logical realm so I don't get hung up with these red flags, right? And like, because I know my attachment style is anxiously attached, if I do not put my secure boundaries around this, I'll get lost, right? And so there's other things like constantly thinking about your partner. Oh my God, this is one I struggle with for ages. Right. And this is, I'm activating them into my nervous system. I'm reactivating them to like keep it alive because I want to feel this closeness, this connection with them. So I'm constantly thinking about them. What are they doing? Like the struggle to be present was so fucking real when I was in my early 20s and in that trauma bonding, domestically violent relationship, drug addict, all the kind of fun things that we learn from. But it was so alive. That present was not a thing. But that was my that was keeping him alive in my nervous system. It was keeping like this like closeness. So like if he went out on a bender, like it was me being obsessed with like, what is he doing? And me keeping him alive in my brain so that it would keep this closeness in my body. Instead of being like, well, fuck that. I'm going to go live my life. I'm going to go do what I want to do. I'm going to take myself on a date. I'm going to film and meet my own needs and not think about that. Not bypassing and staying busy, but I'm going to go do the things that fill me up. But at that time, I didn't know what filled me up. I didn't know what brought me joy other than I just want to be chosen, right? I would just want to create this attachment and this closeness because I realize the anxiety only goes away when I'm in partnership with them. It only when they're in my presence. And this still sometimes happens. Like it is so okay that like, even for example, right? Like the guy that I was dating when I was on holiday, whatever, like when he came around or when he called or whatever, like I would calm down a little bit. Like I'd be like, oh, yay. But I would notice that in my body being like, I'm not getting attached to that feeling. Right. And this is where being in tune with our body. Remember how I opened this module with that is just paying attention to what our body feels, because it's normal to get excited when someone texts you or when they call you and they're like, I'm picking you up at 4, wear this. And you're like, yay, I'm here. Like that's normal. And can you regulate yourself before you start to play in it and get stuck in these activating strategies? Do you have examples of this in your life? Do you see how this might have shown up in past relationships or something like that? Like, can you see how we can create this false sense of closeness with a partner that's not even there? We're like, and this can happen in a breakup too, right? Like if I think about my past breakups, like when I would break up with them, it's like to keep them alive in my nervous system and like keep it activated and not fully releasing it. It's like looking at their social media, wondering what they're doing, constantly thinking about them, thinking about all the places that we went. When I'm speaking and telling stories, talking about, oh yeah, him and I went here, instead of like, yeah, I've been here before. Like keeping him alive really activated that in my nervous system. And that's an activating strategy for anxious attached people. And so it's just bringing that awareness to it. Like now, yes, I will still sometimes do a little bit, like, oh yeah, my ex's name is Elvis. Elvis and I went, da, 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 da. And I'd be like, so now it's like reframe that and be like, yes, I've been there before with a friend. Or, yes, I've been there before because I have been there before, right? And it's just bringing awareness to these kind of things of like, how can I bring my own state of steady and calmness instead of these activating strategies that happens because anxious attachment, because this is what we've learned from inconsistencies of absentee parents or friendships or relationships that have trained us to be this way. Like it's just kind of looking at, when does this happen in my life? Am I activating this person inside of my nervous system? And can I therefore switch this for myself? Switch the narrative a little bit. And it takes practice, right? Like it just takes this continuous awareness of, how am I playing into this narrative? What am I doing? And some days you're just going to want to have a fucking day. Like, I'm not even going to lie to you about that. Like some days you're going to want to have a day where you're like, I'm just activating this I'm lighting up like a Christmas tree, whatever. And like, that's, again, you have to give yourself acceptance. And then there's action. Like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm going to stalk their social media for today. Like, I'm not going to be one of those mentors that pretends like that's like perfect. And I'm one of those people that like blocks them right away and does all these things. Like, this is what my post was the other day, is like, your intuition will lead you when you have reestablished connection with your intuition. And sometimes your human's going to want to come in because it's in a triggered state, but it's having that conversation with yourself of being like, I am so triggered right now, and I know this is activating me, and I just kind of want to scratch that itch and then get over it. Right? Like, I want you to feel like it's okay in whatever way that you're healing from this and reprogramming your nervous system. Like, if you get it wrong some days, quote unquote wrong, I don't even like that word, but if you slip up, if you have a human moment, you're okay. Right? Like, there is no right or wrong in this. We live in a mindset that is consistently trapped inside of, we live in a school system or something where it's like, if I don't get all the right answers here, I'm going to fail. And it's like, no, the way we heal from a broken heart, the way we heal our attachment styles, the way we get to secure, is we become a living sanctuary to ourselves, is we become our best friends, is we give ourselves permission slips for being human, and understand that every single day we are learning. We are learning what we like and we don't like. And just kind of being aware of what feels good, what activates me, what doesn't, right? And so looking at these kind of tendencies of constantly thinking of them, constantly being obsessed with them, constantly, only being calm when they're around, constantly looking and doing all that, believing like, even though I'm unhappy, right? Like, I'm unhappy, it's better not to let them go because, what if they find another great partner after me? These are all activating strategies. Like, I'm just going to keep this kind of going, even though I know it's not right for me. I'm going to bypass my intuition. I'm going to detach. These are all activating strategies. This is what leads to codependency. And maybe codependency doesn't sit well with you, but there is high functioning codependency. I was codependent, and then I was high functioning codependent, and now we're secure. And still there's tendencies, right? Like, this is where we all have some type of codependency. Like, we often think like reaching for another is like weakness, and that's just instinct. It is normal for community and to belong, and that's how we feel safe and to try inside of tribes, right? Like, that's what we talked about on Monday or Tuesday, Monday. And so that is normal, but it's looking at, where do I self-abandon inside of my activating strategies? Where am I, because of my anxiety, because it gets so intense, am I losing myself in my relationships? And like, take a moment to even reflect back to the recent ones, right? Like, your schedules. Were you taking time for yourself? Were you taking time for your girlfriends? Were you taking time for your family? Like, or was it like, whenever they wanted to do something, this is, I want to people please. I want to keep them happy. I want to, make sure they don't go find that better partner. I'm going to be that better partner. Like, it's creating this false closeness with a partner that's aloof, essentially not totally present. And so we're activating it to create this narrative, right? And so when we heal from these activating strategies, we open up this space, mental freedom, so that we can stop worrying about them and start focusing on you, bringing it back to yourself, and stop living within this codependent, self-abandoning kind of bubble. And this is where the sacred pause comes in. I'm going to talk about that after we go through protesting behavior, because protesting behavior is also something I did. So, I was so badly anxiously attached that like all of these things plus a trauma bond, it was like, whoa, what's going on here? So proof that you can heal. But so protesting behavior is basically like when we were children and we would throw a tantrum to get our parents' love and attention. I'm going to chuck something across the room and I'm going to scream and I'm going to cry just so you give me attention. So much so. I'm speaking all of this through my own lens and existence, right? And so this is when we get a lack of attention from our partner and we start picking fights about things that don't really even fucking matter, like a toilet seat or socks on the floor or something they did last Tuesday in July 2021. Like, we're just picking things because we're not getting attention that we wanted right there in that moment. Like, hello, pay attention to me. Like, I was the queen of this. What are you mad about? Nothing. But let me text you 800 times in a row. And then you don't, like, then when you finally respond, I'm like, and then they come home and it's like, mate, I was playing basketball. Like, what's the issue right now? You know, or, you know, hanging out, waiting for them to like walk past so that they'll notice me, like at the coffee shop they always go to. And it's like, what are you doing? Oh, clearly stalking you. That's what I'm doing. But it's like, oh no, just running into you. And like, you know, keeping score was a big one. Like, oh my God, paying how long it took them to text you back. So you're going to match that. Although, like, for me, I'm going to teach you my texting strategies and stuff like that. Like, do not reply until you're regulated. But like this whole game mentality, yes, we want to create a chase. If we're looking for a masculine man, they love a chase, but not in a way that's like not sexy. Like, if we're doing it in a way to like punish them in that mothering energy, like, I'm not texting you back because you didn't text me back and I'm mad and this is how I'm going to punish you. That's not sexy. But there's a way of doing it from like this like sensual, I'm creating an invitation and I'm doing it because it's like, ooh, it's a mystery. Like, you felt it with mystery officer. You're like, I don't know what this is, but ooh, seductive. I'm here for it. Like, there's two different energies here. One's like a very womanly energy and one's like a mother broken child energy. I'm going to punish you kind of vibe. Right? Or there's, I used to roll my eyes. Like, I swear to God, my eyes would roll back into the back of my head. Just to cause react. Nothing. What's wrong? Nothing. Until we would get into a fight. And he was like, I'm like, here's the thing about men. If we're talking about men, I'm going to speak from my experience. Again, masculine, feminine energetics, we all have them, but I'm going to speak from my relationships. Men are super fucking simple. They're so simple. But our brains, because they're so simple, we will get anxious about it and start to create drama because we're like, no, there's no way. There's no way you're not thinking what I'm thinking. And there's no way that because you're not here and you're not doing these things, like, there's no way. So let me cause a fight. I used to do this with my own brother, for God's sake, where it was like, we'd be sitting on a beach and he'd be staring off somewhere. And me, I have 8,000 thoughts constantly running through my head. It's just me. And I look over at him and I'm like, what are you thinking? He's like, nothing. And I'm like, no, just like, come on, like, you can tell me. And my brain starts to go, he can't trust me. He won't tell me. He's like, nothing. I'm like, come on, just, what are you thinking? Like, and he's like, Laura, I'm literally thinking nothing. Like, there's nothing and you're ruining this moment for me. And I'm like, oh, the fuck. People pay so much. I was just having this conversation with one of the guys that I was dating. It was just like, he's like, I just meditate and I don't really think of anything. I'm like, how do you do that? And so it's our job to trust that they are not thinking. I know, right? Like, I can't imagine. It's our job to trust. But even if they are thinking something, it's none of our fucking business. If they want us to know, we'll know. That's everyone in our lives. If they want us to know about something, because we are so used to, because this is how we were raised, women specifically, we're so used to emotional manipulation because that's how it was in my household. Tell me if you can relate, where it's like, my mom's mad, she's stomping away about something, but she's not telling anyone. And like, therefore we all have to read her mind about what she's upset about, instead of like healthfully communicating, being like, hey, I didn't like that you did this. And like, if you could, like, I really like a clean floor. So instead of like coming at it with like a negative and being like, pick your fucking socks up, it's like, hey, I really enjoy a clean floor. Like, it's just, is one of my things. Is it okay if you kind of move it over here? Like, there's the different vibes. But we weren't raised in households like that. We were raised with emotional manipulation. Women are fucking queens at this. In friendships and relationships and all the kind of things, emotional manipulation. I will be angry, because if I'm angry, therefore he'll pay attention to me, and then he buys me presents and he gets me flowers and he takes me on dates. So therefore I'm going to cause a fight that makes him be the bad guy. And it's like, what would it feel like to your nervous system if he actually just took you on a date because he loved you and he wanted to do that and you gave him the space to do that? We do this with friendships as well. I'm going to pull away because she's pulling away, and then we're both going to get mad about each other, and it's this whole tit for tat kind of vibe, right? Like, this is how we've been raised for so long. Like, emotional honesty is so rare, and it's such a gift to give someone that you care about. This is why I keep saying with this program, it's about being a living sanctuary, because it's so different. And this is how we change the world. This is how we get permission slips. This is how we change our relationships. And it's really interesting. And I do want to address this point, is like, when you become that, sometimes it takes a while for people to catch up, right? Like, in my past relationship, it was like, when he would come to me and he would say something that he thought would be a reaction, or I would have some type of thing, and I would just kind of be like, okay, and what do you want to do as a team to like address this? And like, how do you want this to go, right? He wasn't really ready for that yet, because it's more common for someone to go off the rails or start freaking out and going through their phone or having trust issues or doing the, like, it's so rare to be like, I got me, whatever you're doing in your life is fine. And I'm going to come at this with an honest conversation. I'm not going to manipulate you. I'm not going to try and get what I want because my emotions are all over the place. And you'll see this, right? You'll see this on phone calls. This is one. So you will never, like, how many, like, a woman will come and still be like, oh, I can't make a payment because, this happened with my kids and my partner, and our car has to get fixed, and this is what's going on. And like, they'll try and get you with the emotion. Never seen a man do that in my life. They will figure out how to pay you. They'll figure out how to get it done. Or they'll come in and they'll be an honest person with you about it. Hey, this is what happened. Here's my plan. Here's how it's going to get back to you. It is never this upset of like, let me strike up my emotions in you, so therefore I can get what I want. Right? Like, this changes the way we navigate the world and helps to diminish anxiety, because we're constantly feeling like people are manipulating us to get what they want. But at the same time, it's taking the personal responsibility of like, how often are we doing that? Right? And to eliminate anxiety and to eliminate this mistrust, right? Because at the end of the day, anxiety comes from, I don't trust. I desire this vulnerability. I desire this connection. I desire this love story of the ages, whatever it is, but I also don't necessarily trust it. Right? And so when you're looking at, how do I want to shift this, and how do I want to welcome this into my life, it starts with you. Looking at how am I reacting from a projection and protection instead of what's actually happening in this present moment? Is there a way that I can actually regulate my emotions, become emotionally honest, and articulate my needs and my desires in a way that is true, without feeling like I need to sell someone on something so I can get my way? Right? If we just allowed people to be as they are in their triggers and their thing, like, without trying to convince anyone that we're right, what a different world that would be in, right? And so when we're also looking at like, where does my anxiety stem from? One, it's my perception of the world, how I've learned to survive, how I react to people, what my nervous system is like, my belief systems, my patterns, everything is through my own lens. And then also looking at anxiety usually comes from lack of personal boundaries, right? Like, because I'm, trying this activating strategy where like, I'm always caught up in what they're thinking and I'm not actually listening to my intuition, and I'm kind of bypassing what I feel isn't really right, but because of my timeline and because of my expectation, I'm just going to stay. Or the other things were like, it's like, I'm not actually getting enough attention and I'm not feeling safe in this, so therefore I'm going to poke the bear as much as I can so that I can get a reaction and give this false sense of connection. Again, that comes down to, I don't have the boundaries. I haven't communicated my standards. I haven't effectively articulated, this is what I expect in a relationship. This is what I need to feel safe. And then also, instead of laying it out bit by bit by bit for someone, being like, this is what I need on Tuesday and Wednesday and I did this, whoops, I did this, this is how whatever, allowing other people to show you how they love you. Right? How do they want to? Yes, by you becoming a living sanctuary, and we're going to talk about more of this when we get to module 4 and talk about securely attached, or module 5, securely attached, is when you set your standards and you create your boundaries, like you're already framing to the world, this is what I like, this is how I know what I like, what have you, and people can match that. And then trusting people in their power. Like if we're laying everything out so perfectly, and this need for control, which is very common inside of anxious attachment, is I want to control everything. I want to look at the phone. I want to know what's happening. I want to know where you are at all times. I want to put a leash around you, essentially, and a tracking device, so I can do this whole thing so I feel safe. We take away the mystery of ever being surprised by the way someone can love us, by the way that they can show up for us. Right? So it's looking at, where am I self-abandoning? Where are my boundaries not being set? Where is my communication? Did I not put that in context? Because I was so afraid of, if I told them, I even had to do this when I had a lover, right? Like it wasn't, I guess I'm going to share this with you guys because it already came out of my mouth. It was like, I'm not the type of person where it's like, I'm going to come over for a lunchtime, bang, and leave. Like that's not me. It's, you will court me. You will take me on dates. You'll treat my friends nicely. Basically, you're going to be my intermediate boyfriend. Like, and being able to articulate that to someone. And if he says no, then fine. Then it wasn't a match. Right? Like this is where your personal power comes from. Can you communicate effectively your needs, your wants, your desires without the needy energy coming in? This is what we talked about in Becoming That Bitch. I know some of you in this program are from that program. Because there's a way of the wounded bitch coming in and saying, this is what I need. This is da-da-da-da, da-da-da. If you don't do this, like there's such an energy around that. But like the strong, empowered woman, a strong, empowered bitch comes in and she's like, this is my standard. This is my expectations for myself. And not in a way that I'm like listing these out to the men. But it's like, if they want something or we're doing something, it's like, that's not me. And if you do that to me, like that makes me feel like a bag. I think I said a bag of skin sack of meat. And I was like, it's just not my vibe. This is how I desire this to go. Can you match me at that or not? And like, there's no hard feelings if not, because this is my standard. Right? And that comes from knowing I'm totally fucking okay if he walks out that door. I'm totally okay if I never hear from that person again. Because this is me. And I've had to practice this in my relationships. This is how much I expect to be taken out. This is what I want it to be like. My life is my movie, and this is how I want it to be. And yes, there's room for surprise, and there's room for their, narratives, but I'm the lead character in my story. And so this is how I treat myself, and this is how I expect to be treated. My nose ring is inside out, don't mind me, it's bothering me. You have to be okay with, when you set a boundary and you set a standard and you do this, that they may not accept it. And that is okay. That is okay, because we have expectations and we have timelines, and we want a love story for the ages, and we want to feel safe, and we want to feel connected, and we want it. We want it. And because you want it and it feels so alive in your body, it is already painted in the stars in the sky and all the kind of things. That's how it works. If you're in this program, you are taking the right steps forward. There is no question nowhere in my soul am I questioning the love story for the ages for you. Like, I know this so fully. But it's standing in your personal power, knowing you're the director, the main character of this whole thing. And so if someone isn't a match for you because you set a boundary and you articulated your needs and your desires, and you're doing it out of a space of, I trust me, but this is me. Right? I'm not creating my boundaries and my standards and my things because I don't trust you and and this happened in my past. And it's from a space of projection. It's, this is me in my present. Because your standards and whatever, they're going to change. Right? They change as you change and evolve. Like, that's the cool thing about our lives and whatever, we're forever changing. But the way that you communicate this to a partner is because you're like, I'm safe with or without you. And I'm not going to cut parts of me away. I'm not going to, my value systems, my belief systems, the way I would desire to be treated, the way I do, what I call in. Like, when you set that tone for yourself and you feel so confident that you can communicate that, and and you can figure this out. And again, we'll talk about this throughout the next modules, and questions that you ask without even needing to be telling, with like just whatever, like you can start to kind of pick and choose these conversation topics, but you'll know. Because again, you're a living sanctuary, because you're the safest place for people to land. If someone isn't a match and they did something and whatever, good. It frees up space for you to call in what was meant for you all along. And just because you maybe gave yourself a timeline, or you gave yourself some type of expectation that I should be here by now, if you can release that and trust that, because you're setting your standards, because you're so secure in who you are and what you're becoming and all the things you're doing, that security is going to create a match with the other person of security. Right? Our nervous system is a match. Our internal reality is a reflection of our external, or our internal reality is a reflection of our external reality. So when we become this securely divine living sanctuary, that will be a match. Instead of this, like, maybe I'll do that, but like, this is what I thought it would be like. And then this person came into my life and he's really fucking hot. So, and he's choosing me and the sex is really good and and we get lost in these kind of narratives. It's like, you're safe as you are. You're a living sanctuary. You're in this program. You're divine as all fuck. Right? And we're going to start understanding that we're safe in our boundaries. You're the damn prize. You are the prize. Right? And just like with our nervous system, we'll talk about this more because I have so much to say on this topic. As I said, there's just so much to go on. But your personal power lies in your own hands. And sometimes when we get a heartbreak and we go through some things, it can take that away. And we get into these vulnerable, tender spaces and it can feel like we're lost and things like that. But just like when we're at the gym and our muscle tears, when we tend to it, when we do our stretching and we take care of it and we put some icy hot on it, and we take it slow and we do the right things, our muscles grow bigger and stronger. That is the same thing with your heart. Right? And so maybe things came up like, I did that in my relationship. And when she mentioned that strategy, or she mentioned that protesting, or she mentioned that activation, like, fuck, I've done that. Perfect. Because you learned. And what was meant for you was meant for you to learn that. It's unfortunate that maybe it ended in a heartbreak. But can you look at it as if you just went to the gym? Hearts do not break. They do not break, they tear. And just like a muscle, they grow back so much stronger when we take care of them in the right way. And so looking at this and understanding, okay, I'm aware of these things now. I can see that I maybe did this in my past relationship, and this was my narrative and this was what was happening, and I can see it. And now can I come in with that acceptance that I did the best I could with the tools that I was given. You did the best you could with the tools that you were given. You are safe, you are learning, you are growing. And so for our homework for tonight, it's going to be writing your narrative. This is a powerful tool where I'm going to make sure I get it all in. We have so much to cover. I'm so excited that this is only module 2 and we have so much. Okay, writing your narrative. So how did you learn about love? How did you learn about conflict? How did you learn about conflict resolution? What did you learn about dating? Right? I want you to write until your fingertips, if you're typing it, or until your hand goes, your wrist hurts. Like, what is your narrative around that? What is the storybook of your soul trying to tell you about these things? Right? Where did you learn it? How does it keep showing up for you? Right? And so what does your dating history look like? After we go through our narratives, what has your dating history looked like? This is going to be eye-opening to what your narrative truly is. How quickly is it for you to attach yourself to someone? What does that engagement look like? And so we're going to start looking at this. And then really, because we're stepping into this anxious attachment, and the way that you heal anxious attachment is actually learning how to spend more time alone. I want you to take yourself on that solo date. And I want you to take a picture, and I want you to send it to me. Or if you do social media, take yourself, tag me in it, whatever you feel like doing, but take yourself on a solo date. It might feel crunchy, but like I said, we're expanding our nervous system. Right? This is how we start to shift anxious attachment. We no longer wait for someone to fulfill our happiness. We do it ourselves. We become the security we have been needing since we were kids. It comes from practice and practice and continuation and repetition and consistency. Okay, so narrative, dating history, taking yourself on a date. And then I will see you. You have all weekend. I will see you on Tuesday. We're going to be talking about avoidant attachment. We're going to be talking about leaning in instead of leaning out. We're going to be talking about seduction and invitation. Like, it's a vibe. So I love you so much. I will upload this to the portal. If any questions come up over the weekend, if any insights, anything, share them with me. I love riffing with you guys. And like I said, if you want to jump into the mystery offer, let me know. You guys will. I'll keep that alive until tonight for y'all. And then if you want to upgrade to the dating micromind, which is going to be 30 days inside Voxer, which is an audio app, 6 women will be in there. And the spots are filled. The spots are filled. It's going to be 30 days of quantum healing our hearts and getting back into this kind of calibration, taking it beyond just learning. We're going to be integrating it, personalizing it into your life. And so that's $444. Let me know if you want to claim your spot inside of that, because those are going quick and filling on the back end. But I love you so much. And I will see you on Tuesday. Happy healings.